Hey guys, Lise here, and in this video I am going to walk you through how to set up your client workflow using Dubsado. Now Dubsado is an amazing tool. It allows you to manage everything from your client workflow right through to someone paying for your product or service. You can also set up your calendar stuff on here, tasks, to-dos, and any coaching calls or consulting calls that you might have. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for everything. But the thing that I love the most about this is setting up automated workflows. So if you're not sure what a workflow is, it really is just about having a very clear onboarding and offboarding process for yourself, so that when a new client joins your business or comes in through one of your coaching or consulting processes or whatever your services are, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time that happens, which is what happened when I first got started. So when I first got started, I didn't have anything like this in place, and I would always be scrambling to try and figure out what it was I was meant to be sending to the client. So this process manages everything. So I'm going to walk you through what that looks like. You can absolutely do this with probably something like Google Forms and then have some Zap set up. But this process here is just so easy, which is why I want to show you what that looks like. Now, it does take a little bit of time to set up. So if you are planning to do this for yourself, then you want to make sure that you set aside some time to do this, because it is probably going to take you quite a bit of time. So the first thing that you'll see is a dashboard. Now you can connect this to your Google Calendar as well, so that it's showing everything, not just client related stuff. And it will give you some financial goals. It will tell you if you've got any outstanding invoices, all of those things. But the area that is the most useful for client onboarding and offboarding is this templates area. Now it's a little bit hidden, so it doesn't make sense straight away. But for anything to happen, you need to have set up a whole bunch of things. So to get an automated workflow happening, you would need to have a project set up for your client. You would need to have your client already set up, and this is all managed based on what it is that you set up in your workflow. So the first step that you'd need to kind of do is sit down and actually map out what you want your onboarding workflow to look like. So take it from the start of when a client pays you. So when they sign up for your service, what does that next step look like? So for me, that is, if someone wants to have a strategy call with me, they will join from my website. So I'm going to show you what that looks like now. So currently I have this set up as my one-on-one process. So if someone wants to have a 1-hour strategy call with me, they are going to click the Get Started. Now this is going to take them through to setting up an appointment to work with me. Now I can do this in two different ways. Now I currently have this set up through Acuity, which then also connects to Dubsado. Dubsado have now just released a whole new scheduling thing, which is in beta right now if you come back to here. So I am going to be testing that, but for now I have it set up to go to Acuity. So Acuity connects to my schedule as well. And someone just comes in here, they set their time zone, they go through the process, pay, and then from there it gets triggered in Dubsado. So you can also choose to use a form from Dubsado if you were wanting to do that, but I need to have the scheduling piece in there so that it gets blocked off in my calendar. Now you could choose to have it set up slightly differently, and the workflow that I'm going to walk you through today is one that I have for a package that is currently not operating, but I'll show you what that looks like so you can see a full setup and how that works. So to do that, the first thing that you would need to do is create a form. So this is where it is placed on your website. So it's called a lead capture form. So you'll see that I've got these different programs here. So for example, we are going to look at the IGT coaching package, which is still in beta right now. So all that I need to do is come in and set up what this is going to look like. So all the things that I need to capture in order to be able to work with my clients. So first name, last name, email, their phone number, and which package they're looking to start with, and then comments and questions. Now from here, you could also choose to add in a payment option, but if you're planning to offer any type of subscription, or if you're going to offer a way for people to make it in installments, then this is when you would use this form versus what I have with Acuity. So you would create this form, and then the next thing that you would do is click on share. Now this is going to give you two options. You can either embed the code on your website or use a direct link. So if I copy this link, I'll show you what that looks like in a new window. So it's just a plain form, someone fills it out, and then it says, let's get started. And then that is going to trigger the workflow that I have set up. Now, I would recommend definitely doing the embed if you understand how to do that, how to take the code and place it on your website, or simply just use this link and then just create either a button or a link on your page. So you would still create your sales page that talks about whatever your service is, and then where it says click here to find out more or get started or whatever you are choosing to use, then this is where you would either have the form or the link, entirely up to you. So then the next thing that you'll need to make sure you have created before you can set up your workflow are all these canned emails, packages, and payment schedules. So we've just set up a form. So if we come back to forms, I'm just going to click OK. You would also want to set up anything else like a contract, a questionnaire, or a proposal if that's how you're going to work. So for this IGT coaching package, there is the form, there is going to be a questionnaire, so a coaching intake questionnaire where I'm going to ask a whole bunch of different questions based on the package that they're purchasing. Then I'm also going to make sure that they sign some type of agreement so that it's very clear about what that looks like, and then it gets added into a workflow. So I've set up a survey that goes through what this looks like. So I'm just going to show you what this actually looks like. Now this is all very much drag and drop. You just put everything in here that you need to, so you can just drag things over. I've already created this. So think about this questionnaire as all the things that you need to know to be able to help your client through whatever service it is that you're offering. So if you were doing websites, what would be the things that you would need to ask? If you're going to be doing coaching, which is what I'm doing, what are the things that you need to know to have a clear plan of moving forward with this client? That's all the things that you should make sure you include here. So all of the questions are down here, and then that is automatically or automatically sent out once the workflow is triggered. So you need to have this set up first. And then the other thing that you'd want to make sure is set up is your independent agreement. So it could be a contractor agreement or a coaching agreement. They will be slightly different based on which one it is that you're doing. So a contractor agreement would be used if you were doing some type of freelance service. If you're doing someone's website design, if you were freelance writing, that type of thing, that's where that would make sense. And then coaching is if you were coaching somebody through something, that type of thing, or consulting, then a coaching agreement would be what you would use. So just make sure that you have that in place because it's really important. So I'm just going to show you again what this looks like. So I have set this up. And there are a whole bunch of things that are pulled in from the actual project. So this is where you want to make sure that if a client fills out that form, that is going to pre-populate that information. And then because you've already set this up ahead of time, it's just going to pull that information in. So what do I mean by that? So I'm just going to open this up. So you have the option to include what's called a smart field. So you can choose to insert a smart field from the actual job, from the actual client. So everything that you're collecting from your business, date, and then if you wanted to include a link to anything else here, you could. So I am pulling in the job details. So I think it's, what does it say? Job invoice details and the package item name. So you, as you're working through this, you would use the information that is already set up inside Dubsado. So then just make sure that it's very clear whether this is going to be installments or not. So I would generally say offer installments, and then if they choose to come back and say that they want to pay in full, then you can adjust the invoice. You don't need to adjust necessarily this contract. And then this will be sent out based on your workflow. But remember, you need to set this up first. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So just to recap before we move on, the 3 things that you'll need to set up before you even set up your workflow is a way to capture your leads. So you would need to have this on your website, or you would click the link to that. So that is the lead capture. So the form that someone fills out if they want to start working with you. Or you could choose to use the scheduling piece here, which then allows you to connect into your schedule. You get to choose what all of those things look like. So you can set that up here. And then you would need to set up a questionnaire. Now, this only makes sense if you need to know questions ahead of time. You may choose to fill this questionnaire in on your first call with your client. I like to know these things ahead of time, which is why I have this going out. And then a contract. Now, Dubsado provides samples of every single one, so you can choose to set that up. You could choose to have a sub-agreement. I haven't had to use that yet, and you could choose to have a proposal. If you were sending something out ahead of time, then you would do that. But I just have these 3 things. Now, once those 3 things are set up, you could go ahead and set up your workflow. But if you want to make your life a little easier, I would set up these canned emails first. So a canned email is just something that is pre-created ahead of time before you even set up your workflow, and allows you to add in a whole bunch of different variations based on your client. So for example, you'll see here that the first template, or one of the first ones that I use, is the contract and questionnaire. So this is where it automatically sends out the questionnaire and the coaching agreement if I was coaching. So it's a canned email. It is based on the client's information, and then it also builds and adds in my branding template signature. So I can use this across the board. I've set it up once, and then I can just add it to any workflow that I want. So definitely recommend setting up these canned emails ahead of time. Now, this is where you have to sit down and figure out what this is going to look like for you as you work through these different options that you're offering. So for example, let's say that you were offering a website design service. So you would have that initial form that they would fill out. You'd probably have a questionnaire where you ask a whole bunch of preliminary questions like, is your website already up and running? What are the main things that you need to make sure set up? What are the pages that you want? You know, do you need branding assistance? All of those things are set up. Then you would have the independent contractor agreement. Now, as they work through that process, you might have this being a 90-day process where you go through and create their website. What are the checkpoints and milestones that you need to make sure are happening with your client? That's where creating these canned emails is super helpful. So the first one that goes out is this contract and questionnaire. Then they are going to get a link to book in their first call. And then I've got a whole bunch of other options set up. So you can see that there are lots of canned emails set up ahead of time. So then the next thing that I want to show you is the actual workflow, and this is where things look amazing. So I'm going to show you this one here. So basically it's an if this then that setup. So this is what it all looks like, and you'll see that the workflow is quite detailed. I'm going to go in and click on the settings so that you can edit it. Now, one thing I didn't cover was setting up packages. Now, you only need to do that if you are planning to set up any type of payment schedule. You could choose to do that as well, and you can create a payment schedule from scratch as well. But this just allows you to do things like send out different things based on something that has been set up. So this is how this workflow works. So the first action that happens is this creates a to-do for me to actually create the first invoice for that new client. So this is always going to be something that I manually need to do because it really depends on whether the client wants to either pay in installments or pay up front. So they make that decision right away. So then I just have to go in and do that, and that's relatively easy. And then all the flow-on effects are send the primary invoice one day after the previous action is complete. So as soon as I tick create to do, or I tick off that I've done that, then this will automatically be sent out. Then send contract independent coaching agreement one day after the invoice has been sent out. So it says one day after all previous actions are complete, and it's based on this. So you can reorder these, you can move them all around as well, but generally if you do it after the previous action was complete, that makes the most sense. However, there might be a time that you might choose to do that differently. So for example, if you are sending out the coaching agreement, then you may also choose to send the form coaching intake questionnaire once they've signed the contract, because you don't need that information until they agree to the terms that you've laid out. Then you might choose to send a welcome pack, and that is based on a package. So not necessarily if you're not wanting to worry about that, you could just go straight into actually working with them. But I'm all about wowing my clients. So I have this little to do to send a postcard from Postable, and that is postable.com, that sends a physical card to my clients when we start working together. And it is just a way to connect with them further and make sure that they feel loved. Then the next thing is I'm going to send them a free voucher for a coffee. Then I'm going to make some notes inside Dubsado based on everything that I've learned, and then my process goes from here. So I personally use Trello to keep track of all the things that I'm doing, whether it's my own projects or I'm doing something with a client. So then this to-do is created. Now you can start to create this based on actual times, but if you do that, then you are now making this workflow very, very specific to one client. So I definitely wouldn't recommend doing this. You should just do it based on delays. So for example, if I come in here and instead of using fixed, I'm going to do relative. So what that means is, let me see if it's going to allow me. Yeah. So you can choose to delay it by so many days after the previous action is complete. So let's say I want to make that 5 or 3 days after, then apply. Now that is going to look very different. So it's going to be like, I'm going to create that because now I know that the payment schedule and all those things have been completed. So now we're good to go. So now I can create that. And so that is then triggered. Now, the next thing is send email first call booking. Now, this is based on that canned email response. You could choose to set that up separately, but I would definitely recommend setting up that canned email response. You can choose to require approval before completing an action. So that would require you to actually do that, to actually sign off on that. So again, you can choose to do it 1 day after, 2 days after, whatever that looks like and makes the most sense to you. I would probably recommend just saying straight away, just go 0 days, and then that means it will immediately send out straight after this is complete. So immediately once you've created that Trello board, then the first call booking email is going to go out. Then I'm going to create a to-do to send out the link to the actual Trello board. So that gets set up. So it is about sitting down and mapping out your actual process for working with a client, and then setting up this workflow so that you don't ever have to sit down and remember how to do all of these things. And then you set up all these different automated emails. If you're going to create a to-do, just shout out to them on Twitter or whatever platform you want to do. It's just a great way to keep track of everything that you're doing based on whatever it is that your service is. And if I go all the way down to the bottom, it then walks you through what the offboarding process looks like. So you'll see that I've got 30 days. I'm reaching out to them to see how they're doing, to see if there's anything else I can do. 20 days, I'm sending out one of those other postable cards. I'm going to do a 3-month follow-up. So you can set all of these things in place and just make this look amazing for you so that everything goes as exactly. So I'm just going to say apply changes, and then that is now all set up. So you should definitely figure out something similar to this for yourself, whether it's in Dubsado or whether it is using a combination of Google Forms and your own email marketing platform. You could absolutely do that. You could set up all these different emails, at least get those going out based on whatever it is that a client is going to be doing. You could definitely set that up. Where Dubsado comes in is that it covers everything. It covers sending out the contract, it covers sending out payments, and then it creates all those different to-dos, and it sends emails. So check it out. You can see the link to Dubsado below, and if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment below, and I will see you in the next video.